Hey class, welcome back to Chapter 7, investigating the relationship between two numerical variables. Today we'll be looking at exercise 7c, how to interpret a scatterplot. Scatterplots allow us to identify possible relationships between variables. These associations can be described by direction, form, and strength. So direction, we're talking about whether the association is positive, so we see an upwards trend in the slope, negative, which would be a downwards trend, or whether there's no association. So we can't see any clear direction or pattern in the data. Formed is whether the data is linear, so increasing in a straightish line, or nonlinear, which is quite clearly here, in this case, curved. Okay, so nonlinear data could be in any direction. It might go this way, it might go as this is here, it might follow this kind of pattern, okay, so kind of like an S shape. Either way, as long as it's not a straight line, it is non-linear. And we can also describe associations by strength. So the closer together all of the points on the scatterplot are to a straight line determines the strength. So the strength here, all of these points are quite tightly packed around the arrow that's been drawn on top. So we have quite a strong association. In this second example, the points get a little bit further apart, still clearly in the same direction, all quite positive, all quite obviously positive, but a little more loosely apart, closer to a moderate association. And then finally, we can still tell that all of these points are generally moving upwards, but they're quite loose apart. So this would be a weak association. Again, we can have no association. So if there is absolutely no clear pattern, if the data looks weak and you can't see which direction it's going, it would be no association. Okay. Using this information now, we're going to describe the association between the following variables, and I've got two examples for you today. In this first one, we have, and we would describe them in terms of these three things. I like to go with strength first. In this example, I would say we have a strong. You might interpret that as moderate, and that's okay for this exercise. Clearly, we have a downwards trend, so it's a strong negative, and it's quite straight, so a linear association. Okay, in the second example, I would describe this as moderate. You might interpret this as weak, okay, and that's all right as well. So we have a moderate. This time the data is moving upwards, so it's positive. And it's still fairly kind of straight. Yeah, let's go linear. This one's a linear one as well. Association. Except in this one, I might choose to point out that this point here is a possible outlier. Okay. And we will talk more about outliers at a later stage. Okay, but looking from this data, this one is quite separate from the rest, so we may have an outlier in the data set. Which is also useful information from the scatterplot. So that's all for today's lesson. To interpret a scatterplot, you need to describe it in terms of strength, form, and direction. Identify any outliers if you can spot them. Just be aware that strength is a little bit subject to interpretation at this point in time, okay? As always, guys, good luck with the work. If you have any questions, let me know, but otherwise, I'll speak to you all very soon.